3, 2, 1. Hilary Woodhead, you are the Executive Director of NAPA, and Oliver Thomas, you are the Chair of the Board of Trustees for NAPA as well. So welcome both of you to the Care Home Show.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, Simon.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you both here today. I guess to try and set the scene a little bit, I know a little bit about NAPA and the great work that the charity does, but please can one or both of you just really help kind of expand on that and help me and the audience learn a little bit more about the charity and the great work that it does in the world.
Hilary,
Okay.
shall I start and you then chip in?
Please do.
And with the National Activity Providers Association, as I'm sure you know, Simon, and our aim is to make sure that every care and caring setting is full of life, love, and laughter is our aim, and that's what we're really aiming to do, and what we've been aiming to do since we were first established. Hilary, of course, is our Executive Director and fairly new in post. And so perhaps, Hilary, why don't you describe the great things that we're doing now, and NAPA's aims and objectives, and put some flesh on that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, just a couple of things really. I suppose one of the first things to say is that we are a membership organisation, so and a charity. So we serve our members. We have about 3,000 members, most of which, about 90% of those, are care homes. And we kind of support them in a variety of ways really to prioritise wellbeing. So I'd say there are kind of three key things that we do. One which is around learning opportunities, so providing training, qualifications through distance learning programs and face-to-face training and e-learning, conferences and special projects. And the other thing that we do is to develop and provide resources, so very practical resources that help people in a care setting to better engage with the people that they support. And the third thing that we do is that we provide support. So the support that we can provide is mostly through our helpline. So we have a national helpline, but also through our networks. So we have a leadership network, so supporting kind of some of the sector leaders come together to look at some of the challenges that they have in prioritising wellbeing in their settings, and online activity for kind of forums for staff, activity coordinators and care staff to come together to share their ideas. So the support that we provide is quite broad, and it comes in various different ways, but it kind of backs up some of the training that we do as well, because it keeps us in touch with the sector. Mm-hmm. So they're just kind of the three key ways in which we support and keep in contact with our members.
Got you, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much for explaining that and kind of broadening the scene, if you like. So, Hilary, I understand obviously you're quite new to your role at NAPA, having recently taken up the Executive Director post last September. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and your journey with NAPA so far?
Yeah, it's quite a long journey, so I'll try and be quick. The majority of my background really has been around dementia specialist development roles, and something that's always been really important to me in all of the jobs that I've had in one way or another, and something that I've always been quite interested in, is how people spend their time and the opportunities that they have to connect with other people, but also to connect with the things that really matter to them. So whether that be around the arts or around how connections through conversation with other people. And I started out as a care assistant. I was an activities coordinator for many, many years, and then went off and did lots of things. But that always kind of really stayed with me. That's sort of how people perceive well-being, what makes them feel good, what helps them to feel engaged and connected with others. And that's been a sort of a thread throughout all of my work really. So to end up coming back to kind of where I started in terms of activity provision, but with all of that experience in between, kind of feels like I've landed, that it's a part of the journey, not the end of the journey, I'm sure, but it's a part of the journey. It's kind of where I feel, it's familiar, but there's also lots of new opportunities too. So it's exciting. I'm in the right place, I think.
I can imagine, and knowing that my colleague and that your fellow trustee, Sue Goldsmith, is also somebody who's extremely enthusiastic about delivering fantastic dementia care. I can imagine that you both see eye to eye and have lots of kind of shared experiences and kind of important, let's say, person-centered conversations when it comes to activities themselves. So, and Oliver, please tell me a little bit about your background and explain your role at NAPA.
Yeah, I mean, my background is, from a career point of view, was exclusively to do with the healthcare sector. I spent about 17 years in the NHS and left the NHS to join Bupa's care homes business when Bupa had 30 care homes. And by the time I retired in 2013, Bupa had 300 care homes in the UK, and I was responsible for running that bit of business for Bupa. Bupa also had care homes abroad in Australia and New Zealand and Spain as well. So it was properly a true an international care homes organisation by that point. And then when I retired in 2013, I do as I suspect most people do, which is look around for things to do to fill your time, because you're used to working a lot of hours in a week, and the garden gets done, and you go on a holiday, and you look around for things to do. And one of the things that I was very pleased to accept was an offer from Hilary's predecessor, Sylvie Silver, to become a trustee of NAPA, which I did about a year and a half ago. And I'm now chairman. Steve Reynolds, my predecessor, stepped down after a long stint as chairman, a long and very successful stint as chairman. And I was very honoured to be asked by the trustees to become chairman of NAPA, and it's one of the things that I do at the moment, keeping my hand in the sector. So I now have a very nice life and work balance, which I'm very, very pleased about, which allows me to keep on top of the garden, but also keep in touch with the sector as well.
Well, as somebody that's benefited immensely from your kind of coaching and mentoring over the years, as well as somebody that's been involved, if you like, from your own support perspective, you're somebody that I certainly appreciate an awful lot. Not to mention the fact that you're someone that I know that does an incredibly good job of getting that balance right from a retirement perspective. So there have been plenty of times when you've been up to all sorts of exciting things when we've been chatting over the years, including going on holiday and taking the dogs obviously for a walk as well, whilst also doing some other interesting projects as well. So
walking the dogs gives me good thinking time as well, Simon. So and I think of you often. So there you go.
Oh, bless you. Thank you very much. And it's good to, especially I guess with everything that's going on at the moment with COVID, I think it's important to make sure that people do get headspace at the moment, so that they're able to do the best job that they can do, whatever it is they're up to in the world. So thank you both for kind of sharing a little bit about your background. It's obviously great that both of you are involved in NAPA, and as I say, I hear from Sue obviously a lot about the great work that you're doing as one of your fellow trustees. So it's great to have you both on the podcast. So tell me a little bit more about the kind of the background and history of NAPA. I guess kind of start, when was it established, and then kind of give me an overview of its evolution, kind of where it's got to up to date, if you like.
Shall I start with that, Hilary, and then you?
Absolutely, yeah.
You chip in? We started about 23 years ago, 1997-ish. Became a charity in 1998. And with very much of an aim to improve and the standard of activities that we have. Originally, we were very much about older people. We've since changed and shortened our name to become the National Activities Providers Association. and removed the direct reference that we originally had to older people, because that's reflecting reality now, which is activities are important not only to older people but also across the residential and care settings for all ages and age groups. So we're very much aiming not only at older people but across all ages and all spectrums. So that's where we started. We're a small organisation, but I think we could very successfully argue that we punch way above our weight. We have a national presence. We're well known in the care sector, and we're well known for supporting and contributing to a national debate about the importance of activities generally, and the lives that people in care settings live, and making them as fulfilling as we possibly can. That's what we're all about. And as Hilary explained earlier, our training and the development that we provide for people in those care settings is a vital part of that. One that's obviously in the current circumstances is more difficult to provide. So we are having to find other ways of influencing that in care settings at the moment. But we've got we're a well-established, well-known, small charity that's, I think, really, really important to the sector and the people that work within it, and most importantly, the people that are cared for and looked after in care settings up and down the country. Do you want to add to that, Hilary?
I think that was beautifully put. I think one of the things that I'm quite keen to do is to build on the work that Sylvie focused on over the last 2 or 3 years, really, which is about ensuring that although we still have a lead practitioner for activity and wellbeing in each setting, that actually activity becomes embedded into kind of care generally, that it's not seen as an additional something that is added on to other priorities. And I think that, NAPA has done a huge amount of work to establish the importance of activity. I think now we need to think a bit broader about well-being actually, and what that means to people, and how we ensure that people have got opportunities not just to do what they've always done, but perhaps to connect to new things and to explore new ways of spending their day and spending their time, and new relationships and new connections that can be made. And that's, I think, I'm really excited about that, because I think that established sense of what's important is absolutely there, but it's about how we can build on that to make it something even more important, more special for people's day in, day out lives, really.
So would you say that the one of the kind of primary functions of NAPA, if you like, is to try and support almost what you'd call like a cultural shift in the care sector, in whatever iteration that might come to, so that activities and well-being becomes part of the kind of a broader part of a care package, if you like, rather than just kind of one siloed individual part of what might make up somebody's schedule, if you like.
Exactly that. And I think that, as the sector has evolved in the time that NAPA has been around, in that 22 years, we've seen such changes in terms of how care is provided, but also in terms of the needs of the people who we're providing services for. When I worked as an activities coordinator in a care home 22 years ago, the people who lived in that care home had very, very different needs to the people who live in care homes now. So actually, it's, for many of those people, we could run activity groups where maybe 6 or 8 people would join in for an hour, whereas now, of course, and it was one member of staff that led on that, whereas now, of course, the people that we're supporting, they might not be able to sustain their concentration or attention for that amount of time. They might have lots of different complex communication needs. So we need to think a bit differently about how we make sure that they get those connections and special moments throughout their day, as opposed to kind of, particular times of the day where they're engaged. And that's that cultural shift, I think, Simon. Yes, I think it's moving away from, something that's scheduled in, that happens at 10:30, as opposed to something that, is integral to every interaction, and every member of staff can play a part in that, absolutely, no matter what their job is.
And it's just reinforcing that that view and that feeling and the training and the contribution is that every single member of staff in a formal care setting, but people in informal care settings as well, can contribute to life, love, and laughter. Can contribute to a conversation with people who are in care and receiving care. It's not anymore, or at least it shouldn't be anymore, the role of one person in a care home or in a care setting to do activities. It's everybody's responsibility. And our job really as NAPA is to encourage that view and those skills and those that are necessary to do that throughout the care sector as a whole.
And how broadly, okay, so I guess in your mind, or kind of collective mind as NAPA, if you like, you've probably got a fairly consistent view or aspiration around where we should be or where we could be. As a sector, how far down that journey, if we're kind of undergoing this kind of cultural transition, if you like, how are we doing with that journey generally, and what more do we need to achieve to kind of push towards that kind of that goal or that utopia, if you like?
I think we can get very stuck where we are now, and I think it's really important to look back and to see where we were, and to appreciate. I think to appreciate where we were and what's changed and where we've got to, and not. I think sometimes it's very setting specific. It's very service specific. It's even sometimes manager specific, as to what the culture of a particular setting is, how they view activity, how they view engagement, how they view well-being, this big term well-being and everything that might encompass. And I think, that we've moved mountains, actually. We really have. There's been huge shifts and huge changes, but I don't think we're done yet. I still think that there are things that we can do and continue to do to improve people's lives. And yes, absolutely, NAPA's a very important part of that jigsaw, really, just to keep on reminding everybody that, whilst absolutely activity is part and parcel of care, everybody's different, their needs are different, every member of staff's different. We're all bringing something different to those conversations and those connections that we make. And it's ongoing. That conversation has to be ongoing, doesn't it? We can't say we've done it, we can tick that box, we all get it now, because our understanding is changing all the time. We're learning all the time.
Let me give you a practical example, Simon. Sylvie Silver, again, Hilary's predecessor, was elected as at the National Care Awards as what was the title? Personality of the Year? Hilary?
Yes, Care Personality, yeah.
Care Personality of the Year. Last year, in it seems an age ago, when we were all allowed to get together in one room in hundreds of people in London, and Sylvie was awarded that. I don't think, in all honesty, and I was in the care sector 23 years ago when NAPA was set up. I don't think that anybody from an organisation or a charity like NAPA would have received that sort of level of recognition 23 years ago. And I think one of the, and I would give that as a genuine practical example of how activities is now very much part of the discussion in care homes generally. It doesn't matter whether you're a large organisation or a single care home and a single care home owner. You've got to work differently, and you've got to work at making sure that the people in your care have lives that are still fulfilling. And NAPA, I think, has played an extremely important part in that conversation, the extension of that realisation in the 23 years it's been in existence. And Hilary, I know, will now, as the new Executive Director, will take us into and extend that conversation still further.
I mean, from what I see, I mean, you only have to look at the success of NAPA, and then other organisations like Wellness, who I guess the between you two organisations, you're really kind of pioneering for and kind of pushing the edges of the envelope around wellbeing for people living in a care setting, and the kind of the scope and scale of those two organisations as well, kind of again pushing the edges of the envelope to make great things happen ultimately for people living in care settings. It shows how important that it has become. It seems strange now for me as I still class myself as a kind of relative neophyte within all of this. I've got kind of earned my stripes hopefully after 4 years of being in the sector, but it seems almost strange that that this wasn't already kind of on the map as being kind of almost one of the number one priorities, because it's well-being at the end of the day, your kind of physical and mental well-being as a human wherever you are in your kind of life's journey. That's kind of an important part of what makes you as a human and kind of how you experience the world. So it's interesting to it's important obviously that the kind of the transition is underway, if you like, but it's good to hear that. Well, I remember a friend of mine called it the 90% rule. You're obviously always going to be aiming for 100%, but by the time you get to 90%, the landscape will have changed suitably. The 100% changes again. So I guess it's good to hear the fact that you're still kind of striving to make sure that you're aiming for that 100%, no matter how the kind of landscape changes over time.
We'll still keep going. Yeah, and Hilary mentioned the changes to the type of resident and their needs and their care needs in particular that are now in care homes in comparison to 20, 30 years ago. But that she's absolutely right with that. But you then have to remember that the sort of people that used to be in care homes at the end of the 90s, 20 odd years ago, and now very much they're either in their own homes or they're in assisted living type of premises, and the needs for them to be fulfilled in terms of their continuing lives is equally important. Those people used to be in care homes. Now they're in very different settings, and so NAPA's work is never done and won't be done. We have to influence those people's lives as well, and that's our next battle really. Is to start influencing people who are frail, often elderly, but not only, and in different settings than is traditional.
Mm-hmm. And I think also, as you mentioned, I think also it's really important to recognise that there are lots of fantastic organisations doing really, really good work. And I think one of the things that NAPA's really keen to do is to collaborate and to work together because we don't do everything. We don't provide the activity, we support those that do. So the organisations that are able to be hands-on and to role model good practice, we're very keen to establish some standards around what that might look like and to develop that for different parts of the sector as well. So there's opportunity to work together and to collaborate, but also to share, I think, what we've got already, so that we're not reinventing or we're not just rebranding and refreshing than reinventing. We are actually building and developing what we've got together.
It's interesting that you say that. Me and Sue have just started a project as well. Most of the work that we do revolves around care for older people, but we've just started a project around care for younger people as well. And the fundamentals of the chain are absolutely the same, but there is nuance in kind of the delivery and the kind of level of specificity depending on who the resident or who the kind of the beneficiary, if you like, of the care service might be. And it's interesting learning about, again, the things that are consistent, but then also the things that are different with the different nuances of care. So I can imagine that you're probably collectively undergoing kind of a similar journey as well, where again, a lot of things that you are going to do is going to be exactly the same. It's just going to be the delivery or the kind of style might be slightly different. So a question for you. So something popped into my head whilst we were talking earlier. I guess for my own benefit just as much as anything else. So what what from an activities and a wellbeing perspective, what things have we kind of done in the past that might be deemed kind of a little bit kind of archaic now, and then what things are we kind of pushing towards now, just to try and almost get some polarity on the situation, to understand almost kind of what from a best practice perspective, what could be deemed as being stuff that people should be avoiding, and then what should be things that people should be really striving to try and achieve.
Oh, that's a really tricky question, because I think, you know, what I might find archaic, you know, a friend of mine might really enjoy doing, you know, I might think, goodness me, I would never do that. Someone else might love to do and enjoy spending time doing. So I think, you know, in terms of our practice might develop, and how we consult with the people that we're providing the service for, I think, might develop. But actually the ideas for how people spend their time really has to come from them. I don't think we should be prescribing that, really. I think it should be about listening to what people enjoy, what matters to them, what gives them that sense of well-being that we've talked about, and then trying to make that happen for them, rather than us sort of saying, oh, we you know, we don't do bingo. I did say an activities coordinator a few weeks ago said to me, oh, we don't do bingo anymore, we know we're not allowed. And I thought, oh my goodness, what, you know, there might be people that would love to do that. I'm not saying everybody would, but I think we have to be careful not to keep coming in with that's old school, we can't do that anymore. It's more about the approach than the actual activity, I think, and making sure that people are given opportunities to do things that they might not have thought of before, rather than always doing the same things in the same way. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, Oliver might have a different take on that question, but it worries me that we just, you know, throw things out as out of date. Well, some people like out of date. Some people like things that are a bit, you know, unusual or different.
No, I don't disagree at all. I think what's important is that we don't get into the answer to the question being, it's what we've always done. So Tuesday is bingo day, and we've never had a conversation with the people that say, well, actually, would you like to do something else? Is there something else that we can work with? I think that's the most important thing, that we're not doing things by rote. We're doing things because the people that we're caring for actually want us to do something. I think the second thing then is to recognize that over 20, 25 years, the abilities, the practical abilities, the physical and mental abilities of a lot of people in care have altered in informal settings, because for all sorts of different reasons, which I won't go into, probably not for this conversation. And therefore we have to adjust our skills and our approaches to those people, whether they're older or they're younger. And we have to adapt the way in which we approach the people that we are caring for in formal care settings. And we have to work harder sometimes to find out the sorts of things that they can and want to do, and then be able to provide and encourage that. And I think the third thing is that actually sometimes activities is a conversation. It doesn't have to be this sort of great big formal, at 2 o'clock it's bingo. No reason why it can't be 2 o'clock it's bingo if that's what people want to do and get fulfillment from that. But sometimes it's it's a member of the cleaning staff coming into a room and talking to somebody about their life, about their day. Sometimes doing that and not necessarily getting very much back, perhaps, but it's part of life, and helping people to feel fulfilled as long as we can possibly allow that and encourage that to happen, and even then sometimes beyond. So it can be very, very simple things. It doesn't have to be a big ticket organized trip out to a theatre in London or whatever. That is not necessarily all that activities is. It can just be a conversation and showing love and humanity and finding out about somebody's history and what they used to like to do. And it can be as simple as that. But that's very difficult to do. It's simple to say and sometimes very difficult to do with some of the people and the frailties of some of the people we're looking after.
So I guess kind of to try and summarise that, at least for my own understanding, would you say it's got to be focused on understanding the person, and then once you've understood the person, you can then provide them choice, but then not only choice, but then also maybe challenge the status quo a little bit around what else can then be done to give whoever it is that's kind of using the service, if you like, other opportunities that they might not have experienced otherwise in kind of an old paradigm world, if you were.
Yeah. I think I like that very much, and I think, and just to add, with what Oliver was saying about making sure staff have the skills and the confidence, because I think it's those two essential elements, isn't it? The skills and the confidence, and without both of those things, I think people can have all of the best of intentions, but they might get it wrong, and getting it wrong is okay, as long as it's it's picked up on and the person is supported, so that they're not put off having another go next time because it went wrong. That they're encouraged to think about how to do it differently, or how to engage somebody in a way that it might be more successful next time. And I think that's really important as well, that none of us get this right all the time. And we're all learning, and as we learn about ourselves and we learn about each other, we're all learning, aren't we, to how to build connections and rapport and trust, really. And I think those moments are just as important, if not more so, for the people we're supporting now than those big group activities that I was kind of expected to deliver all those years ago as an activities coordinator.
I guess that kind of sits almost alongside that kind of care sector wide cultural transition around getting away from kind of a blame culture, if you like, making sure that people are trying things, because the only way you're ever going to be able to push the edges of the envelope and challenge the status quo with anything is through experimentation. And by virtue of the fact that you're experimenting with things, not everything is going to maybe land as well as it might do, but the learning lesson in doing that is, of course, just as valuable as long as it's done in a safe way. It's just as valuable as doing it right in some respects as well. So
we're all individuals, and we all have individual sensitivities as well as interests and everything else. And sometimes sometimes with your friends you say something, it doesn't kind of come out the right way or how you intended and whatever. Well, there's nothing different in that, and you recognize that and you move on, and you make mistakes, but and it's important people don't get criticized, I think, for trying something different with the best of intentions, and sometimes they'll get that wrong. With our training and with NAPA's training, they'll get it right more often than they get it wrong. So come and be trained by NAPA to get it right.
It's an important lesson in there for sure. If you've got any questions on any of this stuff, you know where to go.
Sure.
So it would be almost remiss of us not to mention the COVID situation in some way, shape or form. So, I mean, none of us really could have predicted the COVID situation, and we've obviously had to change the way that we've worked as organisations in supporting the care sector, and then obviously the care sector's had to support others in the way that it keeps people safe, and also make sure that people that their well-being is being looked after as well. So give me a bit of an overview on the how NAPA is supporting care service providers to be able to kind of, I guess, adapt in what is a very strange and uncertain set of circumstances.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I think, well, one of the things that obviously NAPA does do is we're a training provider, and we a good, it's not all we do, but a good chunk of what we do is providing face-to-face training, and that's something obviously that that's been suspended, that we've had to put on hold during the pandemic. So what we've done as much as we can is to convert particularly our induction materials into a free e-learning program for staff, and it's quite short, it's very accessible, so that they can still have some professional development, they can still have some opportunities to learn and reflect. It's not face-to-face, but what we recommend is that they talk as soon as they can after completing it with a colleague, with a manager, about what they've what they've learned, what they've read, what they've explored through this kind of e-learning program. And that's proving to be incredibly successful. We only launched it a month ago, and you know, we're really inundated with sign-ups, which is brilliant, and it shows that people do want to continue to learn, which I think is really hard to do, because, you know, yeah, we can't deliver face-to-face training, but the fact so many people are signing up to that e-learning does represent, I think, an enthusiasm and an interest and a want to develop their own skills and knowledge. And the other thing that we've done, and it's you know, it's ongoing, it's live, is that we have made all of our web-based resources free to the entire sector, and that's on the website. So everything that used to be kind of locked down just to our members, we've opened up to everybody for the duration of the pandemic, just to make sure that all of our resources are accessible, and they're constantly being updated. When I mentioned collaboration before, we've worked with a number of other activity providers, other organisations to share resources as well, to make sure that we've got as much on there as is relevant and helpful in the minute. And the other thing that we've continued to do, which was in place before the pandemic, obviously, but, you know, has become a real lifeline, is our helpline. We have a national helpline. People can ring in or email us, and all of our responders have been activity coordinators themselves, so they've worked in the care sector. But I think quite importantly at the moment is they also understand the government guidance. They're really familiar with that, because a lot of the questions, a lot of the inquiries that we've been having through the helpline have been around, I think, mostly staff that want to be reassured that they're engaging people, but they're doing that safely. So we're in consultation with a number of our members. We've written some guidance around social distancing in care homes, so that people do feel safe to continue to do what they do, but they know that they're doing that in a way that hopefully is in line with that government guidance around social distancing. So, you know, there are various things that we're doing, and that's evolving all the time in terms of the guidance. As new things come out from government, obviously we need to update. We're updating the guidance to make sure it reflects that, and consulting with our members constantly. So, you know, there are various things that we want to do and that we're trying to do to be as responsive as possible to the sector, not just our own members, but you know, the whole of the health, housing and social care sector, really.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, by virtue of what I do, excuse me, for a day job, I spend an awful lot of time speaking to the leaders of care businesses, and I think to the extent that people are able to, they want it to be business as usual. They want to be able to continue operating, and what comes with that is their people need to continue to be developed in their residents, or their people, the beneficiaries of their services. Looked after properly as well. That doesn't stop. So what comes with that, I guess, is the NAPA seems like a prime example of that, is the fact that the demand is there, the thirst for knowledge and development and things is still there, because people want to do the best job that they can, albeit it's a difficult set of circumstances. But the fact that activities and wellbeing and all of the other kind of support that you're offering up seems to be so well going down so well with the sector. I guess that's just testament to the fact that people are absolutely committed to it being business as usual and just getting on with it to the best that they can.
Absolutely. And that, I think as well, there was a recognition right at the beginning of the pandemic that activity staff were and are essential. They are key workers too, and that was, I think that was absolutely vital. I was so pleased that we could be part of that discussion and that we could share that with the sector. Some of the very early helpline calls were, you know, am I going to lose my job? Will I be furloughed? I'm not a priority member, I know, and my manager doesn't see me as a priority. And actually, so there are some settings that do still feel that way. But we, as NAPA, will be able to say, actually, our standpoint is this, and this is in line with the guidance from central government. So I think, you know, that matters to people, to know they're being compliant. That's absolutely vital, especially in the care sector as well. But to have a friendly ear to be able to talk that through with, you know, somebody on the end of a phone whose face you can't see, whose name you might not necessarily even know, but to be able just to have some anonymity, to ask those questions, to be supported, I think has been, you know, we hope has been really helpful, and certainly the feedback indicates that.
Yeah, that's something that, to be fair, I forgot to pick up on a point that you raised earlier. But you've either had previously, or you recently launched a helpline number for NAPA. Tell me a little bit more about that. Obviously, in the context of obviously being able to lend a helpful ear, if you like.
Yeah, I think the helpline, you know, as I said, people can ring in, they can email us. We're doing our best to we've been quite busy, but we're doing our best to get back to people within 24 hours. I think one of the things that is a strength is that those that do respond have all worked in care, they've all been activity providers, they understand some of the challenges and they're familiar with that guidance, so they can interpret it in a way, the guidance in a way, hopefully, that is that's understandable and comprehensive for care staff and activity staff. But I think sometimes people ring, they send an email just because they want some reassurance that they're doing what they should be doing. They just want to have a chat, somebody that understands, that, is able to give them some practical ideas as well. I think sometimes people are just running out of steam, especially with social distancing, and thinking about doing activities in a slightly different way. And that helps us too, because we hear from them what they are up to, and then we can share that through our news, our NAPA news, which goes out every week. We can share that, we can build a bigger story around that and share it in our quarterly magazine, and that generates that enthusiasm that even when times are this tough, people still experience well-being, which I think is really, really important as well. So, the helpline, I think it's busy, and we're hearing a lot of really, really positive examples of good practice, but we're there for the challenges too, so people can talk those through with us.
And the numbers on our website, Hilary, isn't it? And I don't know if you can include it somewhere in this podcast, Simon.
Will do, absolutely. Yeah, it'll be included in the show notes. So the episode will go live onto the traditional podcast channels. It will go live on our website, and it will be on YouTube as well. So yeah, everyone will definitely, everyone will have the access to the number so that they can give you a call.
Excellent. Good. Thank you for that.
As you say, I think it's just as much as anything. I think whilst people battle with what's going on, I think it's important that to be able to share experiences and to be able to talk through kind of best practice and things, just as much as it being practical, it's a bit of an energy boost as well, to either validate, okay, we're actually going in the right direction, or there's a new opportunity for us to be able to kind of push for something a little bit different and something a little bit kind of new and interesting. So I think that, well, I mean, it sounds like the support numbers already being massively useful, but I can imagine that that will be something that will continue to be of great value to people. So was that something new that was launched specifically for COVID, or was that just part of the package that seems to have kind of popped up a little bit?
The helpline has been established for a while, but I think because we're really keen to be flexible. The emailing in is newer, so saying to people, you don't have to phone us, you can email us at any time and we'll pick it up the next morning. And I think people have found that quite helpful as well, because they can email us at the end of a shift, in the middle of the night if they're working during the night, and they're supporting people. They don't just have to phone us on our office hours, and we're all working remotely too, so actually it's a more flexible approach to a helpline. And also you can direct people, you can give people information in an email format to other resources, and that can sometimes get lost on a phone conversation. So we're trying to always send feedback or kind of write up if people are happy to give us their email address, and send information as well. So no, it's been long established, but I think it's been particularly busy over the last 6 weeks.
Got you. Yeah, I can imagine. So one question I can imagine people will have is, I mean, because of the financial situation, the economical situation, the situation at large, a lot of businesses, a lot of charities are going to be experiencing well, all manner of different challenges. One of them, of course, is going to be a financial challenge, and I think that's just going to be consistent unless you're Zoom or a hand sanitizer company or any of those other things. I think all organisations are kind of experiencing some level of challenge off the back of this.
If only we thought of that first, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, I guess this is a question steered towards you, Oliver, but what types of things are you doing? What steps are you taking to help and support and safeguard NAPA as an organisation?
Sure. Well, we first of all, we think it's really important. Wouldn't we? But we think it's really important that NAPA survives and gets through this. And there will be a lot of charities and a lot of businesses that will be worried about their future. And we think it's really important that we continue. So we took some immediate action, which was to cut costs in a number of ways in terms of and changing the things that we did. So, for example, we've up to date we've had a magazine, a physical magazine that we sent out to care settings, and we've put all of that magazine now online, and saved ourselves a chunk of money about doing that. We'll review that position when the pandemic is over and we're a bit more certain about the future. But so we've genuinely tried to cut costs, and there are things that we really wanted to do this year, like, for example, make some changes to our website, which we will now not do until, again, we're more certain about the future and the things like that. So we've changed the way in which we've operated, but we and we've also now thought about the future and how we manage our budgets. What we've been really thankful for and is the support of our members and our membership. We haven't actually seen much, if any, of a drop off in the membership into the new financial year at all. And we've had, I won't name them, but in order to not to embarrass them, but we've had some larger organisations and care organisations sign up to us again for this financial year, and that's giving us a huge amount of positive feelings about the future and about our ability to get through this period. As Hilary says, an income stream for us has been the training that we're now not able to do in the same way, and we're certainly making available, I think for very, very good reasons, information that would normally be exclusive to our membership. But we think that's about us maintaining our position, maintaining our importance to care settings, and we hope that will benefit in the future. But we've been hugely thankful for the support that we've had from members, large and small, across the whole country, and long may that continue. If you're a new member, or if you're not a member currently, you can become a member even during COVID. So please do, and there are advantages still to membership, and those advantages will grow as we come out of the COVID situation. But we've had to do very similar things to lots and lots of businesses around the country, and indeed around the world, because we think it's important that we get through this and flourish and develop and continue in the future.
Yeah. Anything to add to that, Hilary?
Yeah, I'd just like to add that we are, as a small charity, we are also appreciative of any donations and any fundraising activity that people might be thinking about this year, and corporate sponsorship as well, and partnerships with organisations that might support us, and those partnerships are very important to NAPA. They're incredible. They enable us to do some really lovely and interesting work, such as our Arts in Care Homes project that is funded by the Rain Foundation and the Bearing Foundation, but also just the the smaller fundraisers, the people that ran the half marathon for us this year, that had planned to then run the full marathon that was cancelled. You know, those fundraising activities are very, very important to a small charity like NAPA. So if anybody out there would like to be involved in any fundraising activity, please do get in touch with us. We have lots of information that we can share with you about whether it's just a virtual tea party over Zoom with your friends, right through to something a little bit, something to look forward to at the end of all this. We'd love to hear from you, and we've got ideas too to support people with that. So, you know, just a bit of a plea. And the other thing that we're fundraising for is the helpline. And anybody can text to donate to the helpline too. So, you know, that just enables us to stay open a little bit longer, to maybe respond on a Friday. We can only do that Monday to Thursday at the moment, or even over the weekend. So, you know, there are lots of opportunities to help NAPA if anybody out there would like to.
And we can get the number obviously and put that onto the show notes as well. Do you know what that text mobile number is off the top of your head?
I do. Off the top of my head, a bit harder. I will get that to you in 2 seconds.
Good stuff. I'm very, very conscious that a lot of people will be listening to this on their phone, so it may be very convenient for them to be able to do a text donation to be able to support NAPA. So we'll make sure that gets shared before we move on too far.
And I promise you, it'll be well used. Any donations are very, very gratefully received. And
absolutely. Shall I share that with you now? Please
do. Let's do it.
Okay, so you text 700-85, so it's 700-85, and then you type NAPA 20 to donate £20, NAPA 10 to donate £10, and NAPA 5 to donate £5. So that's text 700-85, and then you type NAPA 20 to donate 20, NAPA 10 to donate 10, and NAPA 5 to donate £5. Thank you.
Superb. Well, I shan't do it now because I'm not really good at multitasking, but I'll do it once we're finished. I guess kind of drawing to a close on the episode, and it's been great speaking to you both. What kind of wellbeing recommendations do you have for people working in the sector, either general or specific to the COVID outbreak that's gonna help support people, vulnerable people who are in care settings?
I think for me, and it probably reflects what I've said before, I think it's really important that we look after each other. We talk about looking after ourselves, you know, taking time out, etc. But say thank you to each other, you know, and look after each other, look after your colleagues and the rest of your teams, because you're all in it together, doing an amazing job, and you know, we're all grateful for that. But, you know, just keep saying thank you and checking in with each other. I think that's what I would say. That would be my recommendation for wellbeing for staff.
Can I add two things to that, Simon? One is I was really, really disappointed to see media criticism of some of the staff that have been doing things and putting them on TikTok in the last 10 days or so. Both NHS staff and care sector staff as well. And the criticism that got was highly uncalled for, in my view, highly inappropriate. It's really, really important that even during, you know, difficult circumstances and difficult times, that we also have laughter as well that carry on in our homes, and we have fun things to do. It's important for staff morale, and that directly then reflects upon the care that staff give to residents, whether they're older, younger, whether in acute hospitals, whether in residential care settings, or whether people are at home. We have to continue to have fun in life, and it doesn't matter where we're up to. We have to have fun in life. So that was really disappointing to see some of the national media criticism of that, and I hope that that's finished now, and I hope people can get back to having fun. And I think the other thing that I would say is it's really, really important that people realise there is an end to this. It doesn't, you know, everything has a start, a finish, a middle, and an end, and there will be a time, and hopefully not too long a time, but there will be a time when this is over. there will be then a new normal and there will be changes that will come and work. People will work in different ways and different things will be important maybe, but there will be a time when this is over. And it's important to hold that in mind as well when you're embroiled in the middle of this sort of thing and it feels like it's never ending. It will end, and we will move on, and we will be different, but let's hope we'll be better as well. So keep the laughter, keep the fun, keep the love, but also remember that this period that is difficult will end at some stage in the near future, I hope.
Absolutely.
Couldn't agree with you more. I think the joy, the laughter, the fun, all of the stuff that you've mentioned there, I think is really, really important. And I think it's quite honestly shameful that media outlets should try and latch onto that. It only makes you think kind of how soulless they must be to realise that having fun is actually really, really important. So shame on them to all of the people out there in the care sector who are working really hard at the moment. Enjoy yourselves.
And I think sometimes as well, it's also important just to acknowledge that it might not feel fun at the moment for a lot of people, and that we're there to support people who are having a difficult time as well. So whilst, yes, our focus is very much on, people living well and experiencing well-being, we also acknowledge that for many, many people, they're experiencing a lot of loss, and that, we're here to support them too during that time.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, look, Hilary, Oliver, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Care Home Show. It's great to hear about the fantastic work that you're doing, and I have no doubt that the work that you're doing to kind of surefire the business, it will be around well long into the future. So yeah, absolute pleasure to get to chat to you both today, and thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure, Simon.